next speaker is a family friend and a bit like Tim Gordon, a grandfather of exploration in Australia. Ed Eshuys has had a hand in the Bronze Wing mine discovery, which is now owned by Northern Star. He's been involved in Gwalia St Barbara. He's won the Wiluna gold mine. He's taken all of those skills and works with, in fact, one of today's expert geologists to find the next big discovery. Ed was involved in the early discovery of De Grey's Molina Gold project, and his DGO Gold is in fact the main shareholder. So I'm looking forward to hearing from Ed and finding out what's next. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Mike. That's good. It's dark in Melbourne there, Ed.
Yes, it is. Okay, DGO Gold. I think one of the points we would make is that as a company exploring in Australia, we acknowledge the custodians of the lands on which we operate in Western Australia and South Australia, and recognise the importance of continued protection and preservation of their cultural, spiritual and educational practices. We, in fact, because of our extensive land holdings, deal with some 8 native title groups throughout Australia. And our policy is to, in fact, engage early, to engage often and to engage well with the traditional owners in the areas in which we operate. Okay, so DGO is in fact a company that has a very strong shareholder base. The top 20 shareholders hold some 88%. Board and management hold 20%. We have 3 strategic investments which I will speak to, and we have a very large land bank, some 12,000 square kilometres of land, greenfields exploration in Western Australia and in South Australia. And these large land positions are because we are looking at large-scale opportunities. We've also had a very strong share price growth over the last 12 months, which has been largely delivered, of course, by our early investment in De Grey and our subsequent continued investment in De Grey to the point where DGO is the largest shareholder in De Grey. But to round this off, we have a very aggressive drilling campaign, both within our own exploration land and, of course, within those companies that we hold as shareholders. We're not an exploration company. We're actually about gold discovery. And what we do focus on is estimating at the outset what's the likely cost of finding this gold. And the work that we've done in terms of analysing the exploration activity and the results in gold in Western Australia is that the average cost of finding gold in a brownfield situation is $15 to $20 an ounce. And when you realise that the market, depending on the scale of the ounces that are discovered, values those ounces at somewhere between $100 and $200 a resource ounce, then that's a pretty compelling business model to pursue. And that's in fact underlies our strategy. So we have 2 strategies. One is the brownfields strategy, where we have strategic investments in explorers with the best scrap in our view. And then we have our very disciplined discovery activities in tier 1 situations. So you can see on this this particular slide, we consider the strategic investments in brownfields as low risk. And I think at $15 to $20 an ounce, it doesn't matter whether you're in the Pilbara or whether you're in the southwest of Western Australia, that number hangs together pretty well. So it's actually lower risk than what a lot of investors might consider it to be. As a consequence, the chances of getting high returns are quite real. And as a consequence of that, we now hold 15.8% in De Grey. We are the largest shareholder. We're the largest shareholder in Dacian, which came out of merging our NTM investment into Dacian. And we are the largest shareholder in Yandal Resources. And in each case, there's a very deliberate reason for being there. Clearly, De Grey has got a very large 150-kilometre strike position in the Pilbara, which gold had been found and had been known for decades. And companies had been exploring in the Pilbara for decades. Dacian is just to the east of Leonora. Its main attraction is its large land position, but it also has a fully operating 3 million tonne a year processing plant. So the chances of converting resources into reserves in that situation with adequate funding are real. And Yandal Resources has got land, as the name implies, in the Yandal Belt, and also just north of Kalgoorlie, and in particular north of Kanowna Belle. And in each case, in the case for Yandal, they've been reporting high-grade intersections close to the surface in areas that hadn't been explored in the past. And that gives you a clue as to what to do next. So that's why we are strongly invested in Yandal as well. In terms of our own greenfields exploration plays, we're spending about $8 million a year on direct exploration in the ground. It represents about 5% of our market cap. Obviously, if it doesn't succeed, it has no big impact on our market cap because our market cap is 260 odd million. So we can actually afford to spend that sort of money. The focus we have in our own exploration play is on Malina, which is adjacent to De Grey. We have Hemi lookalike targets within our land that we're going to be drilling shortly. In fact, one of the reasons why we invested in De Grey was that we picked up our Malina land some 5 years ago on the basis that there was potential for sediment-hosted gold in the Pilbara. And in that regard, we, of course, engaged, as you'll hear later, with Professor Ross Large to guide us to that. In my own history, I've always engaged with experts to provide strong leadership in using new research data, new research results. And in fact, that's what led to the CSIRO research led to the discovery of plutonic and bronze ring, in the late 80s, early 90s. So it's one thing, of course, to engage and with academics and research experts. It's the other thing, of course, is to back them and to back that research if you understand what's happening there. So Malina came out of that. The Urita Basin, we were looking very closely at the Samphire DeGrussa discovery and that basin as a whole. Just recently, we've been carrying out core drilling in the Urita Basin at a prospect where there were gold nuggets found and have been known for a long time. The source of those nuggets was not known. And the information that we have got out of that core drilling, the first core drilling for probably 100 kilometres, tells us that were actually in the right place. And as a consequence, we pegged some additional 80 kilometres of that contact position as we now pursue it. Panati is in South Australia. We went there initially looking for cobalt. Again, Ross Large, I asked Ross, where's a good place to look for cobalt? And he suggested the Tapley Hill Shales in South Australia. We did a lot of work and we picked up some land, and consequently we've consolidated our land position. But one of the most amazing things about Panati is that we're looking for Zambian copper belt mineralisation in the sequence overlying the Olympic Dam basement rocks. And in 1975, Selection Trust out of the UK drilled a hole looking for Zambian copper belt type mineralisation, found a couple of metres at 2%. Olympic Dam was found and they walked away. But that was in fact the proof of concept of what we subsequently, some 50 years later, almost, are now pursuing. We have about 100 kilometres of strike of the transition zone that has hardly got a drill hole in it. It's all undercover, as is Malina, as is Eurida, and so the strategy, of course, is to drill through that cover and locate the transition zone, which we did in our very first pass exploration at Panati. And yes, we got 1 metre at 2% equivalent copper, but at the contact between the transition zone and the underlying sandstone. So again, our model is working. We now have 100 kilometres, to focus on. Yilgarn Exploration is a joint venture with Sensor, which uses machine learning and artificial intelligence to identify targets. Basically, what that's about, of course, is making use of the vast volume of exploration data, government data, and research data, and integrating that to identify targets. So we've joint ventured into that. We put in $4 million to earn our 40%, and we're in the process of going through the 9 targets that have been identified, testing them for proof of concept in the first instance, but secondly, of course, more importantly, to see if we can't make a big discovery. So that's sort of where DGO is at today, and the consequence of it is that we have this valuation. So our holding in De Grey, which cost us 43 million, is market value today nearly 300. Our holding in Dacian is 12 million, market value of 19. Yana Resources 9, etc. So 356 million of market value we've created for our shareholders at a cost of 61 million. Our greenfields play, they cost us about 8 million. About 12 months ago, they were valued by independent experts at 27. We have 8.5 million in cash, giving us a total valuation of 362 million. Our current market cap today is 253 million. So yes, there's a discount. And if you think we're spending a lot of time thinking about it, we are. And we as a management team and as a board are directing a lot of attention to this discount that applies to our shares today. So that's where we are. We're very encouraged, of course, by the results at De Grey and particularly at Hemi. We think there's a lot more to go there. Likewise at Dacian, Yandal Resources and our own land is wide open for discovery to actually remarkably or dramatically change the value of our company. So thank you for your interest so far.
Ed, thanks very much, buddy. Very interesting, and a basket of opportunity there for investors.